Welcome to the Ultimate Fight Simulator edition number 4, the last Ultimate Fight simulator for UFC Long Island, which takes place tonight in less than 30 minutes to be exact, at Nassau Coliseum. We've done every fight on the main card except for the main event, where Kelvin Gastelum, tough 17 winner, former welterweight contender, now fighting at middleweight, who is doing quite well at middleweight. Even though he's coming off a no contest to Vitor Belfort after testing positive for marijuana. But he did win the fight via first round TKO, so can't take away anything from him. Taking on Chris Weidman, former UFC middleweight champion. Currently on a 3-fight losing streak. Doesn't have the best luck in New York. Coming off that fight to now Bellator middleweight contender Gegard Mousasi. Controversy, unified, non-unified rules, knee, legal knee, illegal knee. I think Chris Weidman just wants to get back on the win column. And as you can see from the tail of the tape, Kelvin Gastelum much younger, Chris Weidman much bigger. We'll see how Kelvin Gastelum handles Chris Weidman's power and strength as Chris Weidman looks to deal with Kelvin Gastelum's speed. So, first 3 fights, Jimmy Rivera won. Well, according to UFC 2, I'm going to be going with Jimmy Rivera, Patrick Cummins, and Dennis Bermudez. I forgot what the results were, but you can look back in the videos on my channel, which you can subscribe to. Comment on this video as well, like the video. But here we go. So instead of showing you the fight, I'm going to show you the highlights because the first fight actually went 5 rounds, and I don't want to put you through that torture. But first round, I actually scored 10-9 for Chris Weidman. Second round, I also scored for Chris Weidman. Third round, I actually scored for Kelvin Gastelum. He nearly finished that fight. But they're showing a highlight of Chris Weidman knocking him out, or nearly knocking him out with a head kick. Fourth round, I actually scored for Chris Weidman 10-9, but they're showing Kelvin Gastelum taking Chris Weidman down. And round 5, ironically, I scored it for Kelvin Gastelum 10-9. So I had it 48-47 for Chris Weidman. But we'll see how the judges score it in this game.
After 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Judge 1 scores this contest 48-47, Gastelum. Judge 2 scores it 48-47, Weidman. And Judge 3 scores it 48-47 for the winner by split decision, Kelvin Gastelum.
The bad luck continues in New York for Chris Weidman as Kelvin Gastelum takes home the split decision. I did score it for Chris Weidman, but oh well. Obviously, I'm not a judge. So we'll see how accurate that is if the fight ends up going to a decision and it goes to Kelvin Gastelum. But as you can see from the stats, you're probably gonna have to pause it round by round. But if you do, you'll see that Kelvin Gastelum actually won the fight. Now for the second fight of the series, if the fight takes place on the feet, I believe the advantage actually goes to. That's a tough one. I'd actually go with, based on the size and the reach of Chris Weidman, I'd probably go with Chris Weidman. But I think Kelvin Gastelum improved much more as a striker. I don't know if he has the power to knock out Chris Weidman like Yoel Romero does, but anyways, Kelvin Gastelum takes Chris Weidman down, manages to get him in the mount and pounds him. Look at that. On the mount, pounding Chris Weidman. Going for the knockout. Looking to sweep the series. But look at this. Chris Weidman catching Kelvin Gastelum in a guillotine choke. Weidman known very well for his chokes. One of the best in that technique. And he has Kelvin Gastelum pretty deep in the guillotine and ends up choking him out. No judges necessary. He finishes Kelvin Gastelum via first round guillotine around the 2:30 mark. Bloodied and all. But as long as he gets the job done, the series is tied at 1. So first fight, Kelvin Gastelum gets a split decision. Second fight, Chris Weidman ties it up with a first-round guillotine choke. We'll see what happens in the third fight. I don't know how accurate the choke will be, even though Chris Weidman is really good at chokes, but Kelvin Gastelum is a legit jiu-jitsu. He has a sick ground game. He is a 10th planet jiu-jitsu practitioner. I don't know what belt he holds, but it's going to be pretty tough to submit Kelvin Gastelum, let alone finish him. He's only lost twice, and that was via decision, and they were to Tyron Woodley and Neil Magny. So if you actually combine those two together, you might get Chris Weidman. You know, Neil Magny, who's also 6'3", and Tyron Woodley, who's an accomplished wrestler, which Chris Weidman both possesses when it comes to his characteristics. Yeah, you might actually get Chris Weidman. So look at this. Chris Weidman gets the mount after taking him down. He has Kelvin Gastelum pretty hurt pretty badly. It's around the same time as the second fight, and look at that, knocks him out. So there's my prediction. Chris Weidman finishes Kelvin Gastelum in the first round for sure. The question is it via TKO or submission? I'm going to go via TKO. He's the bigger, stronger guy. And I just think he's going to pound. If he gets on top of Kelvin Gastelum, that might be it. However, if it goes to a decision, I think Kelvin Gastelum has a pretty good shot at with how the New York Commission works. They might judge it incorrectly and give it to Kelvin Gastelum. But you know, Kelvin Gastelum definitely has. I'm not saying he doesn't have a shot at winning. He definitely has a shot at winning, but it's going to be tough against a guy like Chris Weidman. So I'm going to say first round TKO for Chris Weidman, and that is my prediction. So UFC 2 says Weidman, Bermudez, Cummins, and Rivera. That's my prediction. That's UFC 2's prediction. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at UFC FaceSwap. Enjoy the fight, and I'll see you next week for UFC 214.